definitely.
It's gonna take a couple of minutes with Zoom, but
Yeah.
the replay's live. I mean, when somebody watches the replay, they'll see this part.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
be careful what you say. Don't incriminate yourself.
No, I don't.
All right, I'm gonna pull up my Facebook so I can at least see the comments on my page, just in case. Just in case. It looks like it's catching on now. Take about another minute and a half.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm excited. I'm sorry I had to reschedule. Been doing that. I've done it more this year than all the years before combined. Things coming up, and
yeah, it's
I'm just
cool.
It's crazy. This whole thing is crazy. I mean, occasionally in the last few months, I've slept like 8 to 10 hours, like maybe a handful of times. And you wake up and you're like totally discombobulated. And last night I slept maybe 3 hours, and I feel pretty good. I mean,
it's
whatever
so
that,
weird.
I know, whatever that.
It's so weird.
Dang it.
Honestly.
I put the wrong. Okay. I screwed up. All right. Let me see. How do I want to fix this? I'll tell you what, let's go out and come back in. Okay. I put the wrong title on. I didn't change it. Actually, I can do that right now while we're talking. I can just do it. I can do that.
So absolutely agree with you with the sleep patterns. It's just so bizarre. And I go to bed and I'm so tired, and yet I can't fall asleep.
Right?
Try everything. Meditation, listen to some nice, read my book. Nothing works.
I was able to really connect last night, which was part of the reason I couldn't sleep. I'm just changing the name on the different platforms while we're talking. So I think we got enough time in this already. Let's see. So you came forward the first time because you felt like it was time to step up. That was part of that post, I think, or the aftermath of that post that Morgan put up about, step up, or this is what we're looking for. And so then you wrote me a message and you were like, hey, I want to come back on. I'm like, cool. So did you have anything particular in mind that you wanted to talk about? Or,
how long ago was that? That was a good month or so ago, right? And so as you say, things are changing so rapidly now that I don't know about you, but I'm in a different space altogether already.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and it's so intense and so just ongoing, just constant. But it's I'm finding it really positive. I'm not really, I don't know, I'm just not, I guess I'm choosing not to go into the other side of it. And so it's almost like I feel like I'm living in a different reality, but then I guess I am. I guess we are.
Well, a month ago, from what I could tell, everybody was coming out of like the 10th, 11th, and 12th of October. And there was about a week to 10-day integration period that was just all over the place. And then it felt pretty good the rest of the month. And then November, I don't even know how it's November 18th. To me, it's like the 3rd or the 4th of November. But it's been a totally different kind of deal. I mean, it's just been, I don't even know how to explain it, but we've got an eclipse tomorrow.
Yes.
We've got some more power dates with the 20, 21, 22.
Yeah.
And then right into December, which is going to be full of power days, the days that have 1s and 2s, which would be the 1st, the 2nd, the 10, 11, 12, the 20, 21, 22, and there's the full eclipse and the solstice. So get ready, hang on.
Yeah. But I don't know about you, but I'm just trying to stay really positive and just not go in, as I say, not go into that whole other side of the story. But and that seems to work for me. So sometimes I look at what other people are going through around me and I think, God, you know, am I just sort of, what's happening here? Am I just riding the storm like you wouldn't believe, or have I got mine to come? I don't know. Who knows? You know, everything's changing constantly in every moment, in every day, in every week, in every month. So who knows? Who knows? But you know, that physically, I don't know about you, but physically, definitely things are affecting me on a physical level.
Yeah, that's been, for me, November's been more about the physical.
Yeah.
Like, I think today's the first day I've had with no pain.
Yeah.
No body pain for the last, I don't know, week.
Yeah.
I've had neck pain, or neck pain and lower back pain, and it hasn't been like a normal pain, because I used to have a lot of back problems. But Judith Kuzel was on Saturday, and I believe she was talking about the white flame, which I worked with last night, which I was really happy with. I'd never done that before, not consciously worked with the white flame that she talks about. But she had been talking about the spine. I felt like my spine's been stretched at various times, and the pain being on each end of the spine, I just have a knowing that it has something to do with the physical transformation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I was with some friends last night, and we were talking about this very subject, and we all agreed that we'd all had this like, we said sore throat, but it's not really a sore throat. It's a weird sensation, and it's always in one side. Like mine's always in the left side. And
Okay.
you can kind of always, you can feel it there, but it's not really a sore throat. It doesn't develop into anything. It's just there.
Yeah.
And it's worse in the morning, and then it goes off during the day. But I was just reading before we connected that actually the throat chakra is it's all to do with the eclipse that's happening. Is it tomorrow? It's tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah.
And or starts tomorrow, and that's all to do with that. So and our throat chakra is opening up to more and more creativity. So we're needing to speak out more about, you know, what we feel we need to be doing, I guess, creatively.
Yeah.
That's definitely the case for me, because I just don't seem to have very much time to be creative. I'm not even sure what I know what my creative level is. So that's quite exciting, and that kind of explains the sore throat thing. But yeah, physically it's been quite a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there is something to the throat thing, because I don't know why, but it just, whether it's speaking your truth in one-on-one conversations, in our private life, or stepping out like so many are like you that are starting to say, hey, this has been my experience, and there's a whole bunch of us out there. And then, of course, that's paralleling this, what seems to be like a, like a standoff that's beginning to occur. I know in Victoria, in Melbourne, yesterday, they tried to pass a bill that they've been, pushing, that was going to give the premier full authority. I think they labeled it something to do with the medical emergency powers or something. And after refusing to put the vote off, they decided to put it off for 2 weeks because they didn't have enough votes to pass it. And then they had 100,000 people marching in the streets last week, even though the media doesn't carry it. I mean, I don't know. I think on one hand, we've had this, we kind of went from, just my opinion, but if you go back a few years, there was a pretty big collective. I'm not going to say it was even the majority of the, let's just say, of these communities such as Soulogy, but there certainly was a prominent collective within that environment that was saying, hey, just look at the love and light, love and light, love and light. And then we figured out that you can't just look at the love and light. So then it became, let's focus on, let's look at it, let's embrace it. Let's try to see it from a higher perspective. But I think now what's happening is, because our consciousness is really made up of our thoughts. We know this, and it all creates the collective. But I think people are getting to the point now where they're saying, hey, enough of this. I've had enough of this. And I feel like that's actually something that's directly affecting the speed and the width, if you will, of our expansion. I think we're accelerating timelines dramatically, regardless of our words and actions, although those have bearing, but it's our thoughts. We're just like, you know what? I've had it. This doesn't make any sense. The media does nothing but lie. I mean, really, even worse than it ever has. Can't get a straight answer. There's just, infringements on our space as a soul, as a human. And, I've had enough of this. And I see many, many, many women leading the way, which makes sense because that's the energy that we need. That's the energy that's been suppressed.
Yes, absolutely. 100% it is. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And, if I go back to, as you say, I mean, I can go back many years. But, more recently, the movement of people, waking up and becoming aware of the truth of everything. It was quite slow initially, although, and it was quite frustrating because, you felt as if you were sort of on your own a bit. I mean, I did, living where I live. I think there was probably 2 other people that I knew of that had any idea at all what I was talking about. So I wouldn't talk about it because, you just, well, it doesn't make sense to anyone else, does it really?
Right.
Or it didn't then, rather. But now, it's, it never ceases to amaze me how many people around me in this small community that I live in are actually well and truly awake and know exactly what's going on. And as you say, are absolutely sick of it, fed up with it, had enough, quite happy to say so, not worried about putting themselves out there and saying that. And you know what? Thank God for that. Thank God for that, because it's time, isn't it?
Well, and the other thing is too, like we're being, I guess, in a way, forced to really rely on our own, our own energy, our own information.
Yes.
Although we can help each other, but the reason I say that is because what can you trust out there that's coming from a government or coming from a medical institution or industry? We know big pharma is, and we can talk about all these culprits and all the conspiracy and collusion and so on, but we're really, I think what I'm saying is that it's all coming from right here. It's coming from how we're projecting out our energy and our thoughts as quantum creators. So it's, I feel like we're making some progress regardless of the continued efforts by the powerless powers that be, because that's what they are. And I love them all. But regardless of that, I think it's all being done right here. That great divide is right here, and we're having to choose not necessarily one side or the other, but to really consciously do our best to find a neutrality before we send our transmissions out, because we're sending our transmissions out constantly 24 hours a day. But back to the throat chakra, particularly with the feminine energy, which not necessarily, my voice has changed over the years. The feminine energy, or the feminine part of me, has become more of my voice. So it's happening to men too. And we're seeing a lot of men start to step up as well. But I think it's really important to support the feminine voice, which is primarily going to be in the feminine body at this time, because it's literally the most precious and pure code that we can share or be presented with at this time, because it creates an instant awareness. And in this field that we're in now, this field of consciousness that we're in now, we can have immediate results in many cases, almost like we're getting switches flipped on in us.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, Todd. It's, bless you, thank you, because that's so important that it's recognized. It's been, as you said before, it's been suppressed for such a long time, and now it just feels like it's completely different. And so I really, really, really thank you and bless you for those words, because it really does mean a lot.
Well, I mean, it only makes sense, right? Even if you look at it from the human rational mind, like if you look at it from the human rational mind, we've been in a patriarchal. It doesn't work. Capitalism is not going to work. No. None of the isms are going to work. And we can all say, hey, there were many, many females that were, that were killed.
Yes.
All that stuff that went on, the burnings, the oppression, the suppressions, rapes, we're talking about energy here. And so it only makes sense that which has been suppressed, we need that. I'd look at it no different than, and many of us can identify with broken homes. And if you're raised with one parent or the other, and how you have a deficiency in your functionality, because you haven't been, you haven't had that in your life. But regardless, I really feel like that, because I see it in my work. We have a long line of people that want to come on, and it's getting, because of what you're talking about, because of the movement of the feminine energy, the goddess energy on the earth, it's affecting us in everything we do. So as an example, for me, it's people that want to come on, and it's very easy to tell, not that we turn anyone down, but we do our best to really facilitate everyone. But I can really tell the difference between someone who just sincerely wants to speak about what they've been through, about what they've experienced, versus somebody who wants to promote. Even if it's unconscious, it's just a different vibration. That promotion vibration is not the goddess energy. The goddess energy is just doing what she does, and doesn't really want any accolades, doesn't even want to step up really, but knows that she has to. And that voice, I think, is coming out in many, many people, particularly the women. And so please, anyone out there that wants to come on and tell their story and doesn't want to promote and advertise, if it comes up organically in the show, that's fine. But we need to hear what you went through. We need to hear your perspective. We need to hear what type of connection you have, because it's full of code and it may not seem important. And I've had so many tell me, I think you did, was like, I don't know what I have to offer, but I know I'm supposed to come on. So that's the most powerful code, I believe, that we can receive now.
Yeah. And I still say that now. I think I said it on our last chat that, I just kind of bumble along, really. I don't really, I just do it. I don't even think about it. But I guess I'm thinking about it a lot more now.
Yeah. So, I mean,
because it's getting serious now, right? So, have to.
But you said something at the beginning, which I think is very evident now, especially after going through, I mean, if we'd had to go through October 2021, 5 years ago, I think 3/4 of us would have just imploded or spontaneously combusted, and that would have been the end of it, because it was a tremendous amount of energy. But you said at the beginning in your, and I can't remember your exact words, but regardless of what happened last month and what's going on this month, because that's really all we can, for lack of a better word, attach to or feel into. because there's such an emphasis now, a natural emphasis on the present. But if we think about October and the energy fluctuations and everything that everybody experienced, you talked about the body, but there was also mental, emotional. We had people transitioning. Franco left the planet. I mean, there's other people that have been ill. I mean, so there's a lot of this stuff going on. But at the same time, like you said, it just seems to be getting better and better and better. And it doesn't make any sense, but it's real.
It's real. It's real. And that was, I don't know about you, but I did experience some fear when all those, the people that you and I know well, that, you know, were all ill in the same week. What was it? 5 of them that I know of in the same week. And I started to think, God, you know, what is going on? What is happening with these people? I mean, Amanda in particular, that really shocked me because, you know, she's just such a pure, beautiful soul. And you kind of think, well, if it can happen to someone like that, then what on earth is happening here? What is going on? And it was really I found that quite scary, I have to say. I did. And I had to go into it. I had to go into it and just kind of try and look at it. And I still can't really make much sense of it. There is one person who has come forward and is telling his story, which is great. You know, that I mean, he nearly lost his life, and he's now coming forward and saying this is what happened and trying to make sense of it, and that's helping. I believe that's helping hopefully everyone else. That certainly helped me. But you know, that was a scary time, right?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I really do.
Yeah.
I talked to Kimberly this a couple days ago, and she's handled this very well. I mean, this has been of course, obviously being the partner of Franco, and she carries a frequency that's extremely high. But she really had a rough time of it this past weekend. You know, all of these things, and the reason I mention that is because all of these things that are presented to us, whether it's our own personal misalignment that we call illness, or if it's somebody that we know, like Amanda or Franco, it's information for us. And I know that sounds a little bit cold, but that's really what we do. We gather information to then create something, and we may not think we're creating something, but we are always creating something. But I think, you know, you have to take into consideration what is their soul's plan. You know, sometimes people teach us and they don't know consciously that they're teaching us or contributing to us. But everybody has their shadow. You know, I was watching an interesting interview last night on Joe Rogan with Ben Shapiro. You know, Ben Shapiro is obviously a very right-wing speaker, and I guess activist, which is fine. But it was interesting because they were talking about Facebook changing their name to Meta and the idea behind it. And the idea behind it is that they're making a concerted effort to transform what it is today into something that's basically an extremely high level virtual reality. And in the conversation that they were having, they were just talking about the possibilities and probabilities of the human and their behavior when this is expanded as it's presented. And basically what Ben Shapiro was saying was that, hey, think about this. You can create and be anything you want in this metaverse that's a virtual shared reality. And or you can, you know, be real with yourself. And it was just an extraordinary conversation, but I feel like that this is what's happening on a personal level. It's not the engagement of a virtual reality, but it's actually people saying, who am I? I've got enough information now. And what am I going to do with it? And I feel like that's the energy behind you stepping up and so many like you.
Yeah, absolutely. With the meta thing, it was quite interesting because I was looking at it a couple of days ago, and I found it very interesting that their symbol is the infinity symbol. Because for me, you know, that's how I'm not really interested in the technical stuff behind it, although it is interesting now you've said it. But you know, the infinity symbol, I mean, that made me think, okay, so is this, you know, are the powers behind this the light as opposed to the dark?
Well, see, you know, I was having a conversation with Jeff Walsh yesterday, and, you know, he was talking about, you know, as within, without. And I totally agree with that philosophy. I believe that that's how we create it. You got to own everything. And, you know, and I said, but my feeling has always been, my experience has always been, you got to keep your eye on the ball and don't throw any absolutes down on the universe. We could wake up in a month, a year, whatever, a few weeks, and all those that played the antagonist role, if you want to use that term, or the 1% even, we could find out that many of them were, you know, proportionate to let's just say our group, you know, the same proportion were conscious. They were receiving guidance. They believe that what they're doing is right. Their body lights up when they get the download. I mean, we could all be laughing at the happy hour after party with the people that we thought we'd never share space with. I mean, so it keeps you on your toes, I think, the paradoxical nature of the 0 point.
Yeah. Oh my God, it so does, you know, because we are at the point, or I am at the point, that, as you said, you know, you just look at everything, and not, I guess it is analyzing, but it isn't in a way, because it's kind of, there's something inside you that just knows, and you know, and that happens all the time now, doesn't it? With, you know, you're faced with these, and I think as we're coming into this period now, and so many people are much more awake, that, you know, you just look at everything, and obviously your want is for everything to be okay, and, you know, everyone to be okay, and the world to be the place that we all know that it is going to be at some point. But, you know, it just makes you, well, it makes me just think, you know, there is definitely two ways of looking at everything that is
exactly
happening.
that's exactly right. And, you know, I didn't know that Meta had the infinity sign as their logo, but if you think about it, everything, you can find a polarity in everything that opposes itself. And if you look at the let's just say, what we think or what we know or feel is reality, like we're a soul, we live forever, da 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 da. And then on the other side of the infinity sign, you've got the only thing we're conscious of, which is I'm a human being, I'm alive, and that's all I got. You know, so let's make hay while the sun is shining, right? So those two things being the anchors of that particular infinity sign. Like, are we supposed to take the illusion and the knowing and put those in the 0 point field and see them the same? I mean, everything is the same. We had an interesting young lady on, 31 years old, a couple of days ago, that was really into non-duality and how she functions and how she looks at everything. And really the gist of what she was talking about would be displayed in the way she perceives and functions, which was really, after, I would imagine, after a lot of practice over years, she's able to look at everything and from that perspective, that it's all, there is no good, there is no bad, that this is all God particle or God substance that I'm looking at, that appears to be external of me. But I mean, you know, and that's another thing too. This is a young person, 31 years old. And I heard something yesterday, and I'm going to try to pull it back up, which was which was in regard to, I think it was in regard to, quarantines, vaccines and such. And somebody I was watching, and I believe they were in the medical field, and they were talking about how the young people are not participating. And like, that's a powerful thing, because if you look at any revolution of any substance whatsoever, the young people pretty much always swing things.
Yeah.
They may not always be 100% successful like in the 60s or at Tiananmen Square, but that's a force that you really can't fight permanently. I mean, it's the young people are such a strong voice, and their frequencies are so much higher. So that's kind of a hidden wild card that we don't really consider all the time, because these groups that we're in, they're mostly 35 to 65, with the vast majority being 45 to 65.
Yeah. No, that's definitely the case. That's definitely what I'm seeing. And I was just thinking then, what was coming into my head then was, take us back to March 2020, when all this kicked off, and where we all were then and what our thoughts were then. And I don't know about you again, but initially I just knew straight away. The first thing I have to say is I knew straight away that this wasn't what they were saying it was.
Of course.
As soon as I saw it, I knew, and like a lot of us did. And then it progressed as it did. And there was again, this feeling of, oh God, everyone's going to fall ill or get sick or die or whatever. And, they're going to take the vaccines, because you knew that was coming anyway, even though it hadn't been talked about at that point. And now, if you fast forward to now, that's actually a massive, massive, massive change.
Absolutely, it is.
And it's so exciting. I mean, I'm just, as you can probably tell, I'm quite a grounded person. So I tend to, not to say that I don't meditate and do all that, because I do, but generally speaking, I'm quite a grounded person. So I tend to just sort of look at everything and then, form my opinions. And then, like you said earlier, I don't tend to talk about it unless I'm pretty sure that that's the way it's going or whatever, as much as we can be. But, that difference now, that reality then and the reality now, is just so bloody exciting.
Yeah.
It's so exciting, because we thought the vast majority of people were going to fall for this crap, and they haven't.
No. But and here's the thing, we can say that, and I'm with you. I know that. I don't believe these statistics that are coming out that 97% of Israel's vaccinated, or some of the other figures that I've seen. When I read, which is interesting too, because you're seeing, when this first broke out, anyone that said anything against it got censored. Even if you mention the word vaccine, quarantine, and so on. And we had a couple of shows that got removed. But it's funny, because why is the anti COVID stuff creeping in now? Why is it being seen in the mainstream media? Why did they run in the Daily Mail yesterday the story about Dan Andrews and Victoria not being able to pass the bill? Why did I see something 2 days ago that Fauci and Gates both admitted that the vaccine wasn't working, and that the answer would be more boosters? So, going back to what you were saying earlier, because you got to be open. And what you were saying was that, hey, maybe they understand their role in the game. Maybe we all are creating this, which we are, but I mean, maybe to me, what it feels like is, are we going to let go or be dragged as a collective? Even if you're in the 1%, do you want a bumpy ride? How are we going to coalesce all of this that is inevitable? If we look at the stars, and if we look at the, the precession of the Age of Aquarius to this age, that age, You know what I mean? So like there's this, and even if the 1% has secreted esoteric knowledge, these aren't stupid people, you know?
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's, you know, it's interesting because people, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I've got to this is a bit lighthearted, but it's just coming again to me, and it's really funny. But have you heard about the supermarket? I'm probably not allowed to say the name of the supermarket, although I should.
You can
So
say
I'm going to. I'm going to. Tesco supermarket in England, have running their Christmas ad, and right in the middle of the ad, there's a suggestion that Santa's going away on a trip. So the next thing you see is Santa at the airport in front of passport control, and he holds up his vaccine passport, and they let him through. And it's all joy. And the backlash from that has been absolutely enormous.
Hasn't it?
Where people are saying that they're boycotting Tesco's, they're not using them anymore. They're complaining to the official bodies about this advert. They're going on YouTube and disliking the advert. It's absolutely huge. And that in itself tells me, as we were saying, how many people now know what it's all about.
Oh, I think so. And again, I think it's being grossly misrepresented. I saw a figure yesterday, and I realize that there's propaganda on both sides. You know, there's always going to be,
of course.
But
of course.
You know, just the fact that I mean, you can look at so many things. You know, Donald Trump. Donald Trump took office. I don't have any political affiliation, because it's all the same boat to me, and that's my point. But he took office and said, "I'm going to totally disclose the JFK assassination federal documents 50 years later," and and nothing came out. And then Biden says the same thing, and nothing comes out. One of Trump's chief confidants just got indicted by the American Congress for not showing up, contempt of court. And so he goes and turns himself in. And who does he hire? He hires Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer. Now, this is Trump. So, you know, and again, not to create a us versus them thing, but to understand what we're dealing with. We needed a bull in the China shop energetically. Trump did a fantastic job of that. It woke a lot of people up. Yes, it created some division, but patriarchal is patriarchal. Narcissistic is patriarchal. And so when are we going to see the real, you know, physical representation anchor and take hold on the earth? That is what we're talking about, the feminine rising, the goddess energy. I don't know if it's going to happen with some great leader. I think it's actually more likely to happen from the boots on the ground, like yourself. And it's more of a subtle, you know, kind of force that doesn't come through conventional means, because we got to admit one thing to ourselves: nothing that we did in the past is working on an individual level. All the bypassing we did, and all the ignoring we did, and denying we did. And I think there's another thing too, that's probably the first rule of the road in the ascension or in life, is that, you know, it's all about you. And you can complain about the world all you want, but if you want to contribute, then bring yourself into a higher level of alignment. I mean, that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think you're right. I think it is coming from the words that came to me were grassroots. The grassroots of it, you know, of the feminine and the female uprising, if that's the right word. It's us. It's not just one person. It's a collective. And we do have to, and I absolutely agree with you. You know, if there are ladies watching now that, you know, are feeling that they want to step forward with their stories, because, you know, we've all got stories, haven't we? We've all got, you know, I know I have things that I've been through in my lifetime that were definitely not very nice, and sometimes really, really horrible. As a female, being on the receiving end of something that's just not nice as a female. So we have to step up and say, yes, I've been through that, and yes, it was awful, and it was just what it was, but it was not nice.
Yeah.
But look where we are now. Look what everything. I believe everything that you go through, it is a lesson, and moves you on to the next level of understanding and forgiveness. And yeah, it's
Yeah. I
that's where
agree.
we're coming from. I think
Yeah.
women that are standing up and saying, yes, this is me, this is what I've experienced. But it's okay.
Yeah.
It's actually okay, and it's okay to come out and say that, and it's safe to come out and say that. Mostly, obviously, there are exceptions to that, but it's okay. We can speak out. We can be brave, and we can say we're ready. We're ready to move forward with this. I know.
Yeah. And I think another thing that's happening too is we're becoming, and I think a lot of this is happening because the universal energy that's expanding itself, the space between us, right? What we can't see, that 97% that's empty space in an atom, and then just extrapolate that. My friend Ty calls that the mother, right? And I feel like that is right. But like for instance, I was watching, Morgan and I watch movies together. And so last night we decided to watch a long movie. So we're going to watch Titanic. I hadn't seen Titanic in years. And it's not typically, just at first glance, I judged it. I'm like, yeah, whatever, I mean, an overproduced movie, but I noticed a lot of things in the movie. It's always like that when you go back and watch a movie again. And one of the things I noticed was in the movie, Kate Winslet's character, obviously she's a socialite, and she's going to marry this multimillionaire guy. And in a couple of scenes, he slaps her really hard. And I thought to myself, and there was even a scene too, where one of the ladies was telling another lady, this is what we do. This is, as women, this is what we have to do. Like, we have to put up with this shit, and I thought, I wonder how that would be received today. That was made in 1997. And then I started thinking about, you don't have to go very deep in history to see, to read about war, obviously. I saw a story the other day on a kamikaze pilot that was 17 years old, that took out 64 people with his airplane. That man died for his God and his country and his emperor and his family and his wife, right? And how many men and women have done that? And now, in the same frequency pattern, that's no different than what that woman said in the movie last night. This is what we have to put up with. This is what we do. This is our place in society. So they're doing it not just to fit in and be cool and go with the herd. They're doing it because in their heart, they actually feel like this is how we keep the peace, which doesn't make any sense if you look at the men with the war thing. But still, what I'm trying to get to is, I think what we're now getting to, because there's a wider sense of awareness of self, and then of course that translates to the collective, people are getting to the point where they're basically saying, you know what, I'm prepared to leave the earth, but I'm not going to do that. I think that's what we're getting to.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. 100%. That is what that feels the right way to describe it, for sure.
Yeah.
Because we're not, and that I've been experiencing that with my friends for quite some time, actually, for quite a few years now, gradually. Yeah. Where, you just hear someone say, well, I'm just not putting up with that anymore. That's done. I'm done. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm standing in my power. I'm telling, this person, whoever this person is, whether it's a partner, a husband, a friend, or whoever it is, that's not, I'm not doing that anymore. that's old. That's old hat. We don't do that anymore. And I've definitely personally felt that for quite a few years myself,
Yeah.
and have been living that way too, because I've had someone in my past that was very controlling, and
Yeah.
so I know what that feels like, and I absolutely get that. Well, that's what we do. That's how we just do, and we did do it to keep the peace. A
Yeah.
lot of the time we did it because we were scared, fearful of what would happen if we didn't, toe the line, so to speak. But no more.
No.
Absolutely no.
No, and regardless of the era or the cultural environment we grew up in, and I know some are very misogynistic. I
Yeah,
understand they're very patriarchal, but I
yeah,
think we can all point to times in our lives when we can make reference
yeah.
to when a feminine energy put her foot down.
Mm,
Like the entire household stops. A
mm,
business can stop. You can have a man that's, I used to hold some senior executive positions in my old corporate life, managed a lot of people, a lot of offices. But
mm,
if my home life wasn't copacetic, if it wasn't in equilibrium, which, that was difficult back before 2012 anyway, but if
mm,
but if the feminine energies in my life weren't happy, my efficacy just diminished dramatically.
mm,
So my point is that this energy that's surfacing, that's different than where we've been. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but I think it's easy to characterize it and it's easy to describe it. This is not feminism. This is
mm.
a feminine energy that is in all of us, that is coming to the forefront, like you said, from the grassroots. And all I'm trying to say is that, my experience with that type of force, be it my grandmother or, other prominent feminine, Morgan, I mean, when they put their foot down,
Mhm.
it's pretty much
Yeah, yeah,
my way or the highway, pal,
yeah.
and
And we're
so
doing.
yeah.
Do you
And I think
find?
that's what's happening now.
Yeah, but are you finding with that? Are you finding, like with Morgan, for instance, it's done in a very different way now? Because I can feel myself doing it in a very, very different way.
Yeah.
It's not. It's never done aggressively. It's never
No,
done with bad words,
no.
or or or. Well, sometimes it's done with swearing. But you know what?
Yeah, yeah, it's done with swearing. No,
Yeah, it's
but
done with swearing.
I get what you're saying. No, because and I think we've all, even if you're a feminine, let's just say a more of a feminine energy, like
Mm,
that, we've all had to bring into balance the impression and imprint of the patriarchal, which means it means that our feminine got distorted and our masculine got distorted. But
yeah.
because of the characteristics of the patriarchal in general and the way it was designed, you had a much different type of distortion, I believe, in the masculine than you did the feminine.
Mm,
Where there was just this understanding that, I'm the man, and, so to speak, but from an energetic standpoint. But I think you're right. I think part of what's occurred, going back to what you were saying earlier, or what I even observed in that movie with the one woman saying to the other woman, is that the feminine energy started this thing. Like if you look at the communities, they're even in YouTube. YouTube doesn't have the demographics our Facebook communities have at Soulogy, but and we didn't get started on YouTube until
mm,
about 2 years ago.
mm,
So we have like 10,000 people in there now. And when we first started that YouTube, or really started to get involved with it 2 years ago, there was 4% men. Now there's about 15. That's a real percent, that's a real difference. And
mm,
so I really feel like that this feminine energy, you're right, they're not it's not going to succeed by using the old methods of communication or silence. It's
mm.
actually approaching it from that softness, which
Yeah,
is the power within us
yeah,
all. Even the
yeah.
masculine warrior is changing from the archetype of a warrior to kind of like, walk softly but carry a big stick, but it's not like with any physical threat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And it's, it's just, I'm just so honored to be here right now because I'm actually really enjoying this.
Well, I'm sitting here going, how are we going? I feel another expansion coming at Soulogy, and of course my patriarchal impressed side of me, was like, okay, well, we need to launch the network or make it bigger or run the 24-hour channels or whatever, or create or cultivate people to create their own shows or what. So I have all that stuff kind of goes away as it comes in and dominates and clutters my mind. And then this soft feminine energy that is me, that has a voice now within me, comes in and says, hey, you're an infinite being. Chill out. Trust the mother. Just wake up and gravitate, move, align with what you resonate. And it's just this whole different language. And I think that's what you, in my opinion, that's what you were referring to when the show started. How regardless, and I'm just paraphrasing it, but how regardless of anything that's going on, physically, mentally, on the global state, whatever, it's something's getting better and better and better. And it's not fluffy love and light bullshit. It's actually reality. And it's in these little things that are happening. Like I walk outside and the wind starts going crazy, like it's greeting me. I'm like, what the hell's this? Or you know what I mean? It's these little things that are just under the radar. But as everything in the, that we've found, it's always what we think is big is little, and what we think is little is big, right?
Big. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's amazing, Todd. It's just amazing. It's just an amazing time to be alive. I love it. I really do.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. And I obviously, we've, someone said to me the other day about the one of my friends was getting really upset about the all the people that are passing and the children that are getting sick and all of that, and and I said to her, it's not in my reality anymore, and that sounds a bit cold, but it's just not in my reality. It's just it's kind of like you're watching it like it's a movie almost. And that just sounds awful because it sounds like I don't care, but it's not that. It's, I don't know. I can't even describe it. It's just.
Well, this has been coming up in the last week on this show.
Has it?
Yeah. Well, said maybe a little bit differently, but it's, I'm starting to see the pattern.
Oh, right.
I saw it with myself, Morgan and I, in our relationship and just discussing our own personal experiences and the experiences we had together. And then I started a few days ago, started hearing people say this. And what it is, it's weird because it's like we're split. Like what I'm hearing people say and what I'm experiencing is like even the physical stuff. This was yesterday. Yesterday, I was in so much pain. And I had chronic back pain for 12 years. I mean, debilitating back pain, where I couldn't walk some days and stuff. And so I know what pain is. But the pain I was having yesterday, it was a different kind of pain. And then I thought, well, maybe it's not even about the pain. Maybe it's about my perception. So it's like there's part of me that's watching the human Todd, and the human Todd feeling everything as I go through life. So in this case, the back pain, the neck pain, the just pain, and this other part's watching. And somehow or another, through this thing that's occurring or evolving, my life as a human's becoming a little bit, well, it's becoming more different every day in the little bitty aspects of our lives. And I've heard people talk about this. I feel like I'm standing there watching myself, but I'm myself, so it's, I don't know if it's a transitionary thing, but it took me to a conversation yesterday with the big Todd, little Todd. And I said, you know, and the big Todd's like, well, do you really want to get this all over with? Are you that fed up? Are you at the point now where you're just like, hey, let's just get to the end? And then the human came in and goes, well, you know, I know I'm eternal. I know there's nothing to save, there's nothing to heal and all that stuff. And I thought, no, let's go ahead and work this out. I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stick around. You know, I want to be here. So I don't know. Our lives are changing dramatically. And I think this is the only way to really get the gold out of it is to talk about it, especially the women.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate that in itself, you know, talking to as many people as possible, as many people as listen to me, really. So yeah, and so I have to say thank you, Todd, for having me back again. It's been absolutely amazing. I don't know where we are time-wise, but it feels like we've been talking about ages.
Yeah. Well, we'll do it again. No, this is good. This is good because like people look at the first show you did, and then we do this one. This is what I feel like is if it's not the major part of it, it's a big part of what I'm feeling. And anything that comes to light with expansion Soulogy over the years always seems to reflect the parallel, which only makes sense because we're all doing that, you know. But I feel like that just to expand on at a conversational level, we're picking up code, just like sitting here talking to you. And as you're moving around, like right there, the light gets really bright and it goes down, and it gets really bright and it goes down. Now people can say, oh, well, because she's moving, but no, this is code. Just like the lady yesterday, we had to cut the show short. She was talking, and every third word was coming in, every fifth word, yet the code was there. And so this is part of that magic that for the most part, they call it women's intuition for a reason, but you know, the magic that the women have always been aware of and utilized to the extent that they could without being considered crazy and nuts and all that. But all the crazy and nuts, all the crazy people now, I feel are the columns of light, not to differentiate themselves, but at the level of awareness that these things, these hurricanes that are coming through, such as a COVID initiative or whatever you want to call that, we're holding our ground. And that's what the mother energy does, right? Mother energy is there, always will be there, and will not change her opinion of you no matter what.
I'm certainly becoming more aware than I ever have of, you know, when I'm in you know, say, I don't know, in a restaurant like we were last night, and I found myself saying to my friends, you know, just us three sitting here, because we're all very awake, just us three sitting here, we're just shining our light to all of these people that are coming and going from this restaurant. Exactly. And I'm now aware of that much more than I've ever been. So and that's the same thing, isn't it?
It is. You know, Morgan was sitting there going, why am I over here? You know, we're just talking it. She's 5 minutes from the Gimpy pyramid. There's got to be a connection there. There has to be a connection there. I mean, so there's a lot of stuff going on that we haven't always known on a conscious human level, but I think that's changing as well. And I think it happens through these conversations, through sharing, which most of the time is going to be done in a conversation, but it can be done in a post you do. And it can be done in a piece of art that you create, inspired by what you know. Yeah. So we're going to have another new one on. We just ran them back to back today. I told her we'd be 10 minutes late, so they give me time to you know, get a glass of water and such. But her name's Irene, and I can't pronounce her last name yet, but I will after the show. So we'll see you again if you're open to it.
I'd love to.
Maybe after the first of the year, after we get through our New Year's Eve party.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. Exactly.
But thank you again, Todd, and lots of love to you and everyone.
Same to you. Love you. You take care. We'll be back in